Alright, so today's film is Dr. Tarr's Torture Dungeon. Never seen it before, let's have a look. Dr. Tarr's Torture Dungeon, otherwise known as The Mansion of Madness, is a 1973 Mexican horror film directed by Juan Lopez Moctezuma. It's an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's book The System of Dr. Tarr and Professor Feather. So the film starts out with this really trippy intro sequence. A horse and carriage rides up to a castle, and inside a big crazy party is happening. I quite enjoy how this looks, to be fair. It's definitely interesting to look at, especially this guy. We then cut over to a guy called Gaston, who is riding in a carriage whilst internal monologuing. Apparently he's visiting a Dr. Maillard, not a Dr. Tarr, who owns an insane asylum. Apparently he's been told that his methods are quite interesting and he wants to meet him. He's also brought along a man called Julian and Julian's cousin Blanche. They move a log out of their path.
His strength is unbelievable.
Yes, I've never known anyone stronger than he.
And run into some guards, which is apparently a new feature. We get a very silly music cue.
Oh.
And some foppish guy walks out, and he lets them past. Further along, and a crazy guy jumps out and laughs at them, and then he's shooed away by this guy. This shot takes ages. They eventually make it to the hospital, but Julian's concerned for his cousin, who's not feeling too well, so decides not to go inside and instead leaves Gaston alone. A bizarre monk lets Gaston in, and we see some of the crazies. Dr. Maillard appears and decides to show Gaston around. He introduces him to his niece, Eugenie, who's playing a harp.
And such fresh beauty. Please accept my honest admiration.
Bit creepy. Meanwhile, Julian and Blanche get jumped by some crazy people in silly costumes. Back over to the hospital, and everyone's drinking wine. Eugenie leaves, and Maillard says he's noticed that Gaston has fallen for her. Bit presumptuous. Meanwhile, Julian and Blanche are trying to escape, but Blanche is attacked. Back again to the hospital, and Maillard's talking about his patients, and he then starts singing.
Lady curling like a thing that never will be known, her eyes will drown it in the dotted danger of an idiot angel.
They talk a lot, and then they go to see Mr. Chicken.
Eat hearty, here, eat hearty, eat hearty.
Well, at least he's good at doing a chicken impression. Over in the woods, Julian and Blanche are being kidnapped. Blanche is being raped, and Julian manages to escape, accompanied by some silly music.
He's gonna finish it. Come on, give it to me. Come on.
Maillard then decides that they should go from the roof to the ground via a rope ladder. Gaston climbs on, but is shaken by the guards, which Maillard finds hilarious.
Stop playing, Marshal. Show some respect to my guest.
He then takes him to see the dungeons, where a very thin and tired man is tied up. Gaston at this point starts to question Maillard's methods. Eugenie comes back and does a dance, and then it's bedtime. Gaston goes to his quarters, but he's been drugged, and he trips out, and he hears something about a ceremony. When he wakes up, he runs outside and bumps into Maillard. They talk very old-fashionedly about chivalry, and Gaston believes that Maillard is an imposter. So Maillard throws him in the dungeons, but Gaston makes a rope ladder and escapes through the window. He then runs into Eugenie, who is being part of some fruit ritual thing, so he attacks the guards there and saves her. Gaston then bumps into Julian. Maillard sends the guards to find them, and we get some very silly fighting, mainly from Julian, who's a little bit pathetic. They eventually get ambushed, and Maillard has a good laugh. So Julian gets thrown into a mass cage, which it turns is frequented by the original doctors, nurses and workers of the hospital. Gaston and Eugenie get taken into a big hall, which is the shot from the beginning, where a party is happening, and everyone's acting all artsy and weird. Also, I really like this puppet. We learn in this section that imposter Maillard is actually called Frigonara, and he led the uprising. We get some weird bits like a guy humping a corpse, and a coffin with celery on it, with the real Dr. Maillard underneath.
Monsieur Leblanc, if you're as clever as you think you are, tell me, what lies under the celery?
The doctors attack a guard and manage to get a key, while some crazy people who've been tarred and feathered do a really cool dance. The doctors attack and reclaim the hospital. We get a speech from Frigonara, they ride off, and the film ends. So, what did I think? I quite enjoyed it. The acting was okay, passable. The thing I really liked was the way it was shot. There are some really good shadows and creepy angles, the lighting was a real highlight, and it was quite surreal, which I can really get behind. The story was good, a classic, can't really go wrong. The music was weird though, mainly when Julian was around. It sounds almost like a cartoon. And they do go a little overboard with the monologues and speeches, but it's quite a short watch, so it didn't really overstay its welcome. Now for the release. The image quality is quite poor, as is the sound quality. The aspect ratio is fine though, it is watchable, and the low quality sometimes exaggerates the shadows, so it was passable. There are quite a few flickers and scratches as well, but it's an old low budget film, so it's forgivable. Now for the case. I think the title's quite funny. They could have easily called it Dr. Maillard's Torture Dungeon. There isn't much to say about the back, it's very to the point and short. The runtime's off by 6 minutes. Apparently this is a cut version, but not by the BBFC, just by the director. It says on the back we get no special features again, but we do get an image gallery. Hooray. This is an instance where the menu comes before the film, not used to seeing that, but they spelt the name of the film wrong, and on all instances as well. Come on. We do get something weird though. Before the menu it actually says Dead of Night. This is the first time they've ever acknowledged their own name with any sort of logo, and the logo looks shit. One last thing worth mentioning is that this is a 15 certificate. I haven't mentioned this before, but this is the second film in the series to have been certified a 15. I thought I'd bring it up now as there are a few more to come in the collection. Now personally I'm surprised that this got a 15, as it's old, it has nudity and sexual violence, and films like this usually get an 18. I mean, Troll 2's an 18. It just seems weird. The other 15 is Oliver Twisted, which again I thought was more gruesome than say Troll 2 or Birds of Prey. Overall then, I quite enjoyed this. It's got great aesthetics and shots, and the story's a classic. Also, it's quite surreal, which is always a bonus. It is let down a little bit by the quality of the DVD, but it's passable. I'd recommend this.